And we're back. Good morning, Inside Tennessee. John North here. We're talking with Dr. Richard Briggs, the Republican senator from District 7, Knoxville, and his challenger in the November 8th race. That is Bryan Langan, the Democrat. Bryan, let's pick the thread up with you as we were coming to a close in that before that first break. Dr. Briggs talked about a few things he was interested in trying to do to help out Tennesseans dealing with jobs, joblessness, and benefits. So what sort of response would you have? How, if you're elected, if you were to be the Democratic senator from this district, how would you make things better in those kinds of specifics?
Okay, well, first of all, if he wants to say he supports the workers and everything, then I have to ask why he voted to put the Right to Work Amendment on the ballot when it's already been state law for 75 years. And all this seems to do is help ensure to the corporations and special interests that they will have access to low-wage, low-benefit workers in the state of Tennessee. And on top of that, I have not heard anything from him speaking about wanting to raise the minimum wage to help working Tennesseans, but he did in fact vote to raise his per diems and what he gets paid in the state legislature before he chose to help out the working people of Tennessee. And beyond that, doesn't want them to have as strong a rights to organize and fight for those benefits and those wages that he wants us to have. So when he says he's for the workers of Tennessee, I have a hard time believing that when I see his voting record. And then when it comes to the homelessness issue, so what I've seen from the Republican Party is that they want to play out of sight, out of mind policy. Our homelessness issue, they're not promoting, job programs, training, that sort of thing. What they have done is passed a bill to criminalize them and turn them into felons, which will not only take away their right to vote and make it more difficult to find housing and get a job and actually reintegrate into society. So I am tired of out of sight, out of mind policies. I can do this into when it comes to our waterways.
Well, yeah, we can get to that in a second, but let's hear from Dr. Briggs. You've raised a couple things I wanted to ask him specifically about. One, Dr. Briggs, as you know, and some members of the audience may know, we've got 4 constitutional amendments that are coming up for a vote November 8th. And one of them is this issue which Bryan Langan raised, the Right to Work Amendment. Some people who are pro-union would say, we don't need this, it's unnecessary, it's already codified. Others say, however, that we need further protections that don't force people working in a shop where there is a union maybe to feel like they have to join it. So, Dr. Briggs, your record on that, what is that? Because I have not looked at your voting record in that regard.
Well, quite frankly, I'm very proud of the record that I have in protecting the workers in this state. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. If you remember several years ago, it was about 6 years ago, there was this move to totally privatize the janitorial services and the maintenance services at all of the state buildings, including the University of Tennessee. And I stood up to the governor and said, no, I want to protect our workers that are hired at the University of Tennessee, not privatize those jobs where they can lose their health benefits. And it's the Union of Campus Workers. They endorsed my campaign. I had some of the others. Now, I didn't do that just for the union endorsements. I did that because I felt it was very important for the workers who were doing a good job, and we didn't have a problem. Now, if someone's not doing a good job, you've got to look for other solutions. But I have backed the workers up, and I have received endorsements from them, and I'll still stand by those workers at the University of Tennessee so they can maintain those, and I will fight for them again, just like I did in the past, to be able to maintain their benefits. The second issue that that I would like to bring up, and a lot of it has to do with the homeless. It was less than a month ago. I went down and I visited CARM. I've been to volunteer ministries in the past when I was on the county commission. I voted the money so we could take the old Fifth Avenue Hotel, and people remember that was an absolute derelict place. That was it was infested with vermin. You had squatters living in filth in there.
That's Min Villa.
We gave supportive housing to the homeless. Thirdly, I've received national awards for the work I've done on mental illness. And if you've worked much with the homeless like I have, you know that part of the definition for chronic homelessness is you must either have a severe mental illness or you must have a mental illness and you must have a drug addiction. And I have worked very, very hard in this state to close the pill mills that were just handing out drugs that addicted so many of our citizens. I've worked to bring more mental health, particularly into rural areas, and more mental health to the people that don't have those access to those. Because if you're talking about our homeless populations, you're talking about drug addictions and mental health issues. It's not just an issue of them not being able to find a job. There's much deeper and much more significant problems with the homeless situations than just not having a job.
All right, we've got to take another break. I'm being told it's time for another break, which gives you an opportunity to grab another cup of coffee. It's Inside Tennessee, and we're coming back.